Hey there, I'm Chelsea,
And I'm Nick.
and you're listening to the Forever Changed podcast.
On this podcast, you can expect to hear real conversations from Chelsea and I about how we have been forever changed by Jesus and how you can be too. We're so glad that you're here, and thank you for spending some time with us. We hope you enjoy.
Welcome back in, guys. It is episode 5 of 5 of our 5-part series of conversations we wish we had before we got married. And I think this one's going to be really fun today because it's looked very different over the years. This conversation has been ongoing in our marriage, but I think especially starting the foundations of your relationship, we're talking about space and alone time when you have a significant other, and even into marriage, what that looks like. And I would even I would propose that we could also talk about friend time in this kind of episode as well. So I'm excited to talk about this because this is a really, really exciting topic because I think our relationships flourish whenever we are balanced in these areas. So how about you share a little bit of your heart behind this episode? Because I know you were excited to talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Chelsea sounds like I know that you love your alone time. And that's true. I do love my alone time, and I'm very unapologetic about that. And I think that my alone time, where I get to have space and I get to think and I get to recharge, it allows me to be the best version of myself in my relationship, in my marriage. And one thing I do just on the upfront want to mention before we get too deep into this episode is that we are in obviously no way demonizing spending exorbitant amounts of time together. We are of the opinion that that is a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
Just quickly, one thing that we've noticed over the years in couples who are seemingly attached at the hip, even outside of marriage, is that there comes a point, seemingly, I don't know when that day is. I think it's different for every couple who finds themselves in that scenario. But there seemingly always comes a day when one person just has enough. They just want alone time. They want to end the relationship altogether because they feel like they have become dependent on this other person, or that other person has become dependent on them. And so that is not the primary motivation for alone time. For me, it is having the space to think and to calm down and to be quiet with myself, and honestly, unapologetically, to enjoy things that you and your spouse collectively might not enjoy. So for me, just one of those things I love to do is I love to watch good action thriller movies. And sometimes Chelsea will join in with me on that, and other times she won't. And that's okay. Chelsea is not wrong for not enjoying action adventure movies as much as I do, and I'm not wrong for enjoying them myself. And so for perfect example, sometimes Chelsea will go out on Wednesday nights with a group of young women, and they will do a prayer night together, and that's their time, and they love it and they enjoy it. And a lot of times on those nights, I will sit in the living room and I'll enjoy a great film, or sometimes I'll sit in the backyard right here by my fire pit, and I'll sit by the fire with my Kindle and I'll read a great book. And those are just some examples of alone time that I get to have that fill me up, that recharge my soul. And early on in our relationship, Chelsea and I spent a lot of time together after we moved to the same city. Mm-hmm. We were pretty much always together. We had some friends in that area, but it was pretty sparse, or they lived, an hour away, because 10 miles in Atlanta is an hour. Right. And so we spent a lot of time together, and I have no regrets about that. We spent a lot of time together in our first year of marriage, mm-hmm. And I have no regrets about that. I think that this has been one of the things that we've just learned that helps us be better the further that we've gone through marriage. A lot of people would probably argue that, oh, you're growing apart, you don't like each other as much anymore. Your intimacy is dying. And I would say a result of us having time to fill up, to recharge individually in our own unique ways. We have ways that we do it. We have ways that we fill up and recharge as a couple as well.
Right.
But in those individual ways, it's helped us be better when we are with one another.
Yeah. I will echo that 100%. And we both have different ways that we recharge and we enjoy the things that we enjoy alone as well. Like sometimes Nick may not understand why I love to read so much and journal so much and have so much like alone time in like spaces where he just doesn't flourish as much as I do. And that may look like me just simply laying in bed and like journaling and reading. And he might find that boring because he's more of a auditory listener. So he always has his headphones on at different points in the day, like when he's cooking and he's listening, to a podcast or a book or whatever the thing may be. And we've had to learn at one point, some of these things were triggering to each other, like where we kind of got annoyed with one another for being different. I'll say that, it's taken some time for us to even understand that we're not built the same and we don't even learn the same ways. A lot of times I found myself trying to even be Nick's Holy Spirit, where I would bring things to attention and say, why haven't you been doing this, this, and this? And he will rebuttal and say, I have been doing that, and that in different ways in the way that I learn, I understand. And so it just doesn't always look the same. And so having this kind of conversation on the forefront of your mind, recognizing that, as you grow in your relationship and you move into marriage, you're going to desire to have really depthful friendships. You're going to desire to have conversations where you check in weekly. I mean, that's one thing that we try to do at least once a week. It usually happens on the weekends where we have, what people say is serious conversation, but it's more so just checking in on how one another is doing. And that's fruitful. That's amazing as well. But yeah, just giving each other space to enjoy the things that you enjoy. And the reason that this conversation, I think, might be, I don't know if it's triggering to some or hard to hear, is there may be some sense of dependency that you have formed with the person you like or love. And there may not be, but you may maybe just enjoy spending time together. Hey friends, if you're enjoying this podcast so far and you have not yet ordered your copy of Marriage Minded, we believe because you're listening to this episode, you would really enjoy and gain insight and wisdom from that book. Nick and I went back and forth in each and every chapter, sharing from our experience and also wisdom from older couples, scripture, and collective advice on how exactly you can know that you're with the one. So it's 10 ways to know that you have found the one. And that phrase can sound a little bit like, oh, there's certainly only one person out there for me, but that's not what we're getting at. What we're getting at is 10 biblical principles and ways to know that you are walking in the path that God has designed for you in your relationship. So if you've not yet ordered it, or if you've already ordered it, hopefully these podcasts go along with all the things that you're learning there, and it just kind of complements more of what you're learning. So we hope you're blessed by it, and thank you for supporting our podcast.
Yeah, one thing I was thinking about as you were saying that was that sometimes there can be a lack of trust. And in that lack of trust, there is seemingly a lack of wanting the other person to be alone or to spend time alone because you don't have your eyes on them and you don't know what they're doing. And what if they're making bad decisions and doing drugs and, ruining the world. And so, I mean, we create all these scenarios in our minds about the person. And this is just my honest take. This is all you'll get from me. This is just how it is. If you're having that hard of a time trusting that person, you shouldn't be with them anyway. You should do them a favor. and just end it now. Because if the barrier of trust is that difficult to overcome that they can't be allowed alone time, or they can't be allowed to go out with their friends, or they can't be allowed to do whatever for a day or for an hour or for however long, then that indicates a real issue. There's somewhere, and there may be great cause for it. I can just say that too. There may be a very good cause that you have trust issues, whether it be individually or you have trust issues in the context of the entire relationship. Maybe there's been prior issues. So I'm not saying that it's unjustified. You are not going to hear me say that. It very well may be justified, but it also very well may not be. And so I think in general, whenever that's the scenario, it is healthier just all around to, at minimum, take time away and become healthy individuals, and then maybe re-pursue it. If God has ordained from the beginning of time that you and this other person are supposed to be together, then you don't have to worry, because it will happen. So you taking 3 months to get healthy and him or her taking 3 months to get healthy as well is the best thing that both of you can individually do. And that's just my very candid thoughts on that matter.
Is it okay for me to say that I disagree?
Sure, we can disagree.
I'll say I agree with most of that, but I'll say sometimes there's inner healing and inner work that we do have to do to where we recognize that we struggle with the person that we love spending time alone because of something that is unhealed in us. And you may already be with that person. You may already be married to that person. So you're in a covenant. And you can't leave.
Oh, yes. Marriage is the.
But sometimes we can self-sabotage something that is good because we have these assumptions about men, maybe from your past, maybe because your parents had passed down, different views on you about men or women, and you think that they're out to get you, or that they may cheat on you, or that they may, do whatever while they're alone. And that doesn't necessarily mean, in my opinion, that you need to end the relationship. It more so means you need to bring to God, hey, why is this my response? Because I love this person and I don't want to cause harm to them, making them believe that I am believing the worst about them. I want to grow and to have this lie healed and to believe the truth about this particular person that I'm with.
Yeah. Well, I will say that's probably the absolute healthiest possible response in that scenario. And I think you can feel free to disagree. This is a great place for Discord. I think that that's probably not the average person's outlook on the matter. Could that be right? Could it be wrong? I will never know. Chelsea will never know. That's just my hunch. I just doubt that that's the average person's outlook on that particular matter, because if they're thinking about that in such a healthy regard, then naturally other points in their life are going to follow as well.
Yeah, I think the reason I even say that is a lot of us have anger and frustration and different kind of flags that come up in those moments where maybe we just haven't reached the point where we even recognize what's actually happening. So even having the awareness to know is a gift from God, that he's trying to illuminate this in you so that you can get healing. Sometimes it can look like it's wreaking havoc in a relationship at first before it's healed and before trust can be built even more. And that's why I really enjoyed writing the trust chapter in Marriage Minded, because I got to even talk to my mom about her past history with men and the way that she had a very unhealthy view about men and their agenda, and how it trickled down into her mindset and even the things that she had said to me. She walked through forgiveness with that. She walked through healing, and she's still working on it. But God's done such an incredible work in her life. And so I think a lot of times people do want to be healed and whole in these areas, and they recognize a pattern in, their dating relationships, and they wonder why they keep sabotaging it and why they keep having the same assumptions. But sometimes you just don't know until
Right.
it's illuminated.
I think all I'm saying, maybe leaving the person may have been a little bit of an overstep.
But I think it's necessary.
Do I think that there
sometimes.
are? Yes, that's exactly what I was going to say. Do I think that there are scenarios in which it is the overall best thing for you individually and for the other person individually? Absolutely, yes. And I
Yeah.
would probably say that. I would probably say that more times than not. Just being very clear. If I got to survey just relationships and look at them from an overall holistic perspective as like what's going on, I would probably say more often than not that they need to separate, get healthy, and then if they both individually have mutual attraction and affection for one another, then give it another go. Absolutely. What I am saying is that it is not fair, it is not right, it is not ethical for one person, due to their issues with trusting, to project that distrust onto the other person and cause them to suffer as a result. That is not okay. That is not cool. That is not right. Never, in my opinion, is that okay. Again, this is my opinion. You can be like, Nick, you suck and you're wrong. And that's fine. If you want to disagree, that's totally okay. But that is my framework. That is my outlook. It is not okay to distrust. It is not okay to project the ramifications of personal distrust onto another person if it is unwarranted. If it is warranted, this is a whole different conversation. But if that is unwarranted and there is trauma, there is issues personally, inwardly, that have caused this to then play out and fights to happen and arguments to happen and disagreements and all the rest of it to come as a result of being irritated or being distrustful to the other person, specifically if they're spending alone time together and it's unwarranted, that's not okay. And that's something that does need to be worked through. And that's something that, I'm not shaming you for it. No, I'm not saying that you're even wrong to feel those things. But I am saying that it does need to be dealt with. At minimum, it needs to be addressed, talked through, worked through, prayed through, processed through. And that's going to leave you better off. That's going to leave them better off. That's going to leave the relationship in a significantly healthier state.
Yeah.
And that's what we want for you.
Right. And there was, just to be transparent, there was a time where I came to Nick and God was so kind with me to reveal that I had a pattern of distrust because of past relationships with other guys and the way that I had experienced certain trauma growing up, that I was projecting it on him. And I broke down and I was just like, Nick, I am so sorry for treating you the way that I did and just assuming that you had ill intentions towards me and that you were out to hurt me. And I don't want to live that way anymore. And so the first step for me was just confessing and realizing that that pattern was happening. And I believe that was the start of a new pattern forming. And it's been like a healing journey like since then. And I'm just so grateful for the grace of God to be over all of our relationships, because it's going to look very different for you. But for us, He's been so kind in that area of trust to really like grow and have conversations and memories unlocked that we didn't even know were there until He illuminated them.
Right.
And so, when it comes to like spending time alone and space, I know we kind of got off a little bit on trust.
No, this all goes back to
But
that.
I think it is very common to have kind of a little bit of a fear come up once you've started to form a lot of memories and bonds with a person, to just kind of always want to be with them and maybe even just allowing yourself to have your needs start to be like desiring for that person to meet all of your needs and
Or to fill in all the gaps.
yeah, and it's just not possible. So I feel so excited and like ready to be home whenever I spend time with my girlfriends and we pray together and we just encourage one another. And a lot of us are married, so we encourage each other's marriages, and then I'm excited to come home and to really take something that I had learned from my friend and apply it here. And I just think you would benefit so much if you took time to invest in your relationships and spend alone time,
Yeah.
whatever you enjoy, and just really allow certain like things that you're interested in. If you like rock climbing or going on hikes, but your person that you're in a relationship with doesn't, that's okay. You can explore that on your own, even though sometimes it might be a little bit scary.
Ooh,
You know?
this is a really good point. I'm glad that you mentioned that. That brought something to mind, is that a lot of times people will spend their alone time doing something that they individually enjoy, as we talked about with me, sitting by the fire, watching a film, whatever that might look like for you. And then the other person, the significant other, they like doing something totally different for you, journaling, reading, and whatever else. And so in dating, a lot of times people will have the outlook that, oh, I'm a rock climber, she's a movie lover, whatever, hates the outdoors, we must not be right for one another. And that's not always the case. I have a friend, very, very, very close friends to Chelsea and I both. And the wife, she loves art. I mean, she just eats it up. She just loves to paint. It is her thing. She's very artsy. That's just how her mind works. And then the husband in that relationship, he enjoys art to a degree, but not like she does. He's much more, motorcycle, eat steaks, let's go work out, like that kind of guy.
Outdoor.
Yeah, very outdoorsy, let's go hunt. And, they're different in that regard. But man, as a united couple, they are amazing. They're truly a power couple. And we just want you to understand that that is okay. It is okay to take time to enjoy things that you individually enjoy and do things that you individually want to do, or even do with other people, with friends of yours who enjoy that thing that maybe your husband or wife or boyfriend or girlfriend and their friends might not. Maybe they want to go do something else. And that is okay. That is how we were created to be. And that's not a bad thing.
Right. And I think we'll kind of make this come full circle.
Land the plane
By saying that a lot of times we don't really know our likes and interests and things we don't like because we're not willing to try it or to explore in a different area. And I remember when we were first dating, I wanted to do really anything with you. And I think over time, even when you move into marriage, that desire to just whatever you're doing, I'll be there with you.
On a whim. Mm-hmm.
It starts to kind of
change.
It can change or it could diminish if you're not willing to really explore all the different parts of the person that you love. I mean, I'll be honest. I think that over the years, like we have shifted and changed, and our likes have shifted and changed. And so it takes more of an effort to find out, like, if I would truly like hunting, or if I don't, maybe I am willing, because no other guys are available, to like go and sit with you and get a babysitter early in the morning to like go.
At 3 a.m.
I think that's a little bit of an unrealistic example, but whatever it is, I think sometimes we'll have conversations and say, have we been exploring each other's different likes and interests lately, and I'll express like, hey, I would like to watch a movie that I enjoy, with you over the next couple days. I think that would be really fun. Even though you might not necessarily like the genre, you might discover that you like the movie that I chose. And that's happened a handful of times, not every time, but just having a balance of, I enjoy these things alone, I have time to do that. I enjoy these things with friends, I have time to do that. And then we both enjoy these things. They may be different. We both may like different movies, music, podcasts, whatever. But letting each other in on those likes allows you to come together and enjoy one another in different ways. It keeps things exciting.
Yeah. Or just be quiet and don't enjoy anything in that particular scenario if that's what you would prefer, because sometimes I just need space with no stimulation, and that's okay too. But we're gonna go ahead and wrap up this episode. This is our final part of our 5-part series together on conversations and things that we wish that we had known, and conversations we wish we had before we got married. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you in the next episode.
See you guys.